In the prophetic book of Revelation, God presents to us, through the Apostle John, a riddle. It's a riddle which has intrigued Bible students for centuries. It's found in Revelation 13, verse 18, and says, "Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Don't you find it interesting that since the very beginning of the Bible, in the creation account, man has been associated with the number 6? Why is that? And why are the words beast and man here repeated in Revelation from the day 6 account of creation? Is it coincidence that God is using this symbolism? Is it coincidence that God decided to use a beast as a prophetic symbol? Or is there a deeper meaning to all this? Join me as we decode day 6 of creation, man and beast. Previously on the Creation Code, I shared with you the satanic attacks that took place from this point on in the series when I first presented this to a live audience. If you didn't watch the previous episode, I recommend you watching it when you get a chance. I believe the devil does not want this message being shared, especially this latter portion of the series. Let's just have a brief look at our cosmic week timeline, which has been developing as we've gone along. Here, day 6 begins about 1,000 years after the death of Christ. As you can see, we are still currently living in this millennium. We have finally reached present times. However, as you can also figure out, the 6th millennium is closing, and closing fast. As many of the events from here on in our study are yet to occur and in the future, it is necessary to study prophecy and unpack the important message God has for his people living in the closing moments of this earth's history. But first, let's read the creation account of day 6, found in Genesis chapter 1, starting from verse 24. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and the creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kinds, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created them, male and female, he created them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, where therein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Welcome to day 6 of creation, the creation of man and beast. So, where's the hidden prophecy in all this? Well, if you notice from the text above, there are 3 main events that took place on creation day 6. Let's consider each part and determine whether they have any prophetic implications. Firstly, there's the creation of the animal kingdom. Genesis 1:25 says, God made the beast. Then secondly, there's the creation of mankind in the image of God. Genesis 1:26 says, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. So God created man in his own image. And thirdly, God appoints mankind as custodian and caretaker over the worlds. Genesis 1:26 and 28 says, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth. Subdue it, and have dominion over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Now, what's fascinating about these passages is that the exact language is used elsewhere in the Bible, particularly in Revelation involving last day events. You see, in the prophetic book of Revelation, God presents to us a riddle. It's a riddle which has intrigued Bible students for centuries. Revelation 13, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Don't you find it interesting that the words beast and man are repeated here from day 6 of creation? Is this a coincidence? Or is there a deeper meaning of all this? Does the beast of the last days have any relation to the Genesis day 6 accounts? Well, to get some answers, we need to find out what exactly is this beast which has been given so much attention in the book of Revelation. And why is he associated with man and the number 6? Well, to find out what this beast is, we need to go to the Bible. And it makes sense to firstly find out what a beast symbolizes in Bible prophecy. And of course, God gives us the answer very clearly. Daniel 7:23. The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on the earth. So a beast in Bible prophecy represents a kingdom, particularly a political power. And when you go through the Bible, you begin to find that there is much attention given to this particular last day beast power. For example, we discover that John the Apostle did not only call him a beast, no. Elsewhere, he calls him by another name. 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard, the Antichrist is coming. Here John refers to this beast as the Antichrist. Now the word Antichrist itself can have two meanings. It can signify one opposed to Christ, the antithesis of Christ, and it can also mean instead of Christ, a pretender who will paint himself as a Christ-like figure. But it wasn't just John who spoke about this anti-Christ beast power. No, Paul the Apostle also speaks of him and calls him the man of sin. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, starting from verse 3. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God and that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. As well as this, we also have the prophet Daniel, who spoke extensively about him in his Old Testament book, where he not only calls him a beast, but also as the little horn who has a man at its head. Daniel chapter 7, verse 8 and 25. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. 25. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, a times, and half a time. It's interesting that these exact details are later repeated in Revelation, along with many other distinguishing details. For example, in Revelation 17, verse 3, it says, "And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." Now we have a woman riding this Antichrist beast power. Tell me, what does a woman represent in Bible prophecy? Remember we answered this question when we decoded Creation Day 4? A pure woman in Bible prophecy represents God's faithful, true people or true church. But an impure woman or a harlot represents an impure or unfaithful or rebellious church. So, remarkably, here in Revelation, John tells us that this beast is being ridden or controlled by a church. Now, is this a pure church or an impure church? Well, the next verses make it very clear. Verse 4, "The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth." Not only is this church described as a harlot, but God calls her the mother of all harlots. Why is God describing this church so harshly? Well, we need to keep reading. Let's read the next verse, verse 6. "I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement." Now God tells us this church persecutes God's true people. This is insane. How can a Christian church murder God's people? No wonder the Bible records John's reaction upon hearing all this. Let's read it again. Revelation 17:6. "I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement." John cannot believe what he is hearing. What is going on? How can a church murder God's people? But as we keep reading through chapter 17, amazingly, God goes on to give John probably the biggest, most obvious clue to identify who this religious power is. Check this out. This is really a slam dunk in identifying who this Antichrist beast power is. Revelation chapter 17, verse 18. "And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth." Now tell me, what was that great city which ruled over the kingdoms of the world in John's day? Rome. Rome was the world empire of that time. Rome was also the epicenter of population. You might recall the saying, "All roads lead to Rome." You know, the more and more I read the Bible, the more I realize that the Bible never sugarcoats things. The Bible is a book of reality. And that's why Revelation 13 verse 2 tells us that Satan himself gave power to this beast and raised up this institution. Revelation 13 verse 2. "And the beast which I saw, the dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority." And we know who the dragon is. Revelation 20 verse 2. The dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan. Here we have yet another reference to Genesis in Revelation. The dragon represents none other than Satan, that serpent of old from the Garden of Eden. What is going on here? Well, you might recall during day 5 or the 5th millennium, we learned that after the Holy Spirit was poured out at Pentecost, the church spread like wildfire all over the globe. But the empire of that time, pagan Rome, was not happy. And we learn that pagan Rome ruthlessly persecuted God's church and his people. Yet despite this, the church grew exponentially. And then we see the pendulum swing in the history books. We see a switch. As the devil couldn't kill off the church and the spread of the gospel, what did he do? He joined the church. Satan joined the church. Satan infiltrated the church from within and raised up this religious political power. No wonder we read of John's reaction to God telling him all this. Revelation 17 verse 6, "And when I saw her, I marvelled with great amazement." With all these clues, you can imagine over the years there's been much speculation as to who this Antichrist beast power might be. In fact, the Bible contains many, many, many more clues that we just don't have time to go into in this series. But let me tell you, there is only one candidate that perfectly fits all the criteria given in the Bible. And it was an answer very commonly accepted in our world, in our Christian world, not too long ago. Because you see, the all-time most popular contender for the title of the Antichrist is not an individual, it's an office. It's the Roman Catholic papacy. And many religion greats such as Martin Luther, John Calvin, William Tyndale, and a long list of other Protestants have all concluded the office of the papacy to be this Antichrist power. So, to be clear, we're not talking about devout, God-fearing Catholics or Christians. No, we're talking about the system. And you seriously can't deny the history of this system. As historian William Edward Lecky stated, "The Church of Rome has shed more innocent blood than any other institution that has ever existed among mankind. It is impossible to form a complete conception of the multitude of her victims." Remember what the Bible predicted nearly 2,000 years ago? Revelation 17 verse 6. "I saw the woman," this is the church, "drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marvelled with great amazement." Does history tell us this happened? Yes, without a doubt. Why else do you think the Dark Ages is called the Dark Ages? Let's read another one. "From the birth of Popery to the present time, it is estimated by careful and credible historians that more than 50 million of the human family have been slaughtered for the crime of heresy by popish persecutors. An average of more than 40,000 religious murders for every year of the existence of the Popery to the present day. Of course, the average number of victims yearly was vastly greater during those gloomy ages when Popery was in her glory and reigned deposits of the world. And then remarkably, in the year 2000, we see Pope John Paul II publicly apologise on behalf of the Catholic Church for their crimes, and he asked the world for forgiveness. Here's what one of the news articles said and reported on this event. The Guardian reported on the 13th of March in 2000. Headline: Pope says sorry for the sins of the Church. Saving one of the most audacious incentives for the twilight of his papacy, John Paul II yesterday attempted to purify the soul of the Roman Catholic Church by making a sweeping apology for 2,000 years of violence, persecution, and blunders. From the altar of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, he led Catholicism into uncharted territory by seeking forgiveness for sins committed against Jews, heretics, women, gypsies, and native peoples. Fighting through trembles and slurrings caused by Parkinson's disease, the Pope electrified ranks of cardinals and bishops by pleading for a future that would not repeat the mistakes. "Never again," he says. "We forgive and we ask for forgiveness. We are asking pardon for the divisions among Christians, for the use of violence that some have committed in the service of truth, and for attitudes of mistrust and hostility assumed towards followers of other religions." Never again. Did you notice that? We'll soon see what the Bible says about that. Friends, it's undeniable. History confirms that Bible prophecy has been fulfilled. So, is there any reason to doubt the remainder of prophecy and whether that will be fulfilled too? Looking at our Cosmic Week timeline, let's put down when this first beast, this sea beast, was established. This is an important moment in Bible history. Do you know when the sea beast rose to power? Well, it rose to power in day 5. That's correct, day 5. Although it certainly was around earlier in some capacity, history will tell you that by midway through the 5th millennium, it was firmly established as a religious political power. So, wait a minute. What is the meaning and significance of this sea beast rising to power in day 5 rather than day 6? Well, just think of it. What is this beast called? A sea beast. That's right. Here we have a sea creature coming out of the day 5 waters. Fancy that. Now tell me, what does the sea represent in Bible prophecy? Well, Revelation explains that the sea refers to and represents a populated area. Revelation 17:15. Then he said to me, "The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." In other words, the sea beast rose to power from a heavily populated area. And we know from history that Rome was a significant epicenter of population. That's why we still have the saying today, all roads lead to Rome. So let's put the rise of this sea beast, the Roman papal system, here on our timeline in about the middle of day 5. There we go. Isn't it incredible that the Bible depicts this Antichrist beast power rising from the sea amongst the abundant life of all the other sea creatures in day 5? I find this quite amazing. But you're probably thinking, if the sea beast rose to power in day 5, what about day 6? I thought we read earlier that God made a beast on day 6 too. As Genesis 1:25 says, God made the beast. So what's the meaning of this passage? Surely there can't be 2 beasts, can there? Actually, that is exactly what is going on. What do I mean? Well, let's continue reading the second half of Revelation 13. Revelation 13, verse 11. "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth." This is incredible. Another beast. And did you notice what else the Bible is saying here? Yes, there is another beast, but have you noticed where this second beast comes from? The earth. It comes out of the earth. In other words, what we have here is a land beast. That's right, a land beast. And in a moment, we will discover the identity of this land beast and confirm it certainly did rise to power in the 6th millennium. So, what is God telling us here in Revelation 13? Well, he's telling us that there are 2 beasts, that is, 2 world powers that will play a prominent role in last day events. The first beast, the sea beast, rose to power in day 5 from the waters, while the second beast, the land beast, rose to power in day 6. Notice how these beasts are in absolute contrast to each other. They're polar opposites, aren't they? So, what's the prophetic meaning of this second beast coming up out of the earth? Well, it means that this significant kingdom is going to establish itself from an unpopulated area, the exact opposite of the first beast. And we will soon discover this is exactly what happens. Let's keep reading. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. What does that mean? Like a lamb? Well, what did a lamb represent when we looked at day 4 of creation codes? A lamb represents Jesus, of course. So this indicates that this nation would have lamb-like or Christian features. Also, significantly, notice these 2 horns have no crowns on them, unlike the first beast. In the Bible, crowns represent kingly power. So, in this verse, we see a new nation rising out of a sparsely inhabited area with gentle, lamb-like Christian features. It is led by a crownless government, so not ruled by kings, yet it would become a global superpower. Has this second beast rose to power yet? Indeed it has. This second beast is without a doubt the United States of America, which was officially founded in 1776. Today has become the world's wealthiest country by far, with the world's largest economy. Yet this nation was initially established as a Protestant Christian nation, as people fled the persecution of the first beast, Papal Rome, for a new world that was largely uninhabited. So, let's add the rise of this land beast to our cosmic week timeline. This is a significant moment in the 6th millennium, as we will soon find out that this beast will play a pivotal role in the last final conflict. You know, the United States has always been portrayed as a land of freedom, hence the Statue of Liberty, for example. And the First Amendment to the US Constitution protects the right to freedom of religion. But the Bible tells us that the picture changes, and quite drastically. Let's keep reading Revelation 13, speaking of the United States now. Revelation 13, verse 11. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Here we have a picture of this second beast turning satanic. Satan is infiltrating this once lamb-like kingdom. And once this occurs, the scene goes from bad to worse. Let's read the next verse. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. In quite a dramatic turn of events for this once lamb-like nation, the Bible foretells that the United States will one day unite with the sea beast, that's the Roman Catholic papal system, and together they will set up a church-state power. But did you notice the intriguing latter part of this verse? Let's read it again. Revelation 13, verse 12. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. What is this bit referring to? This deadly wound that was healed? Well, the Bible gives us the answers. Speaking of the first beast, the sea beast, the Roman papal system, it says, Revelation 13 verse 3, And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marvelled and followed the beast. Now, this healing of the wound here is a big event in Revelation, and is repeated again and again. For example, in Revelation 17, verse 8, The world will marvel when they see the beast that was, and is not, and yet will be. What is the Bible saying here? Well, the Bible is prophesying here that the sea beast, the Roman Catholic system, will receive a deadly, meaning fatal wound but it would miraculously recover and survive. Now, has this happened yet? Indeed it has. You see, this deadly wound occurred in 1798 when Napoleon sent his French troops, led by General Berthier, who went to Rome and arrested the Pope, Pope Pius VI, and dragged him back to France. There the Pope remained imprisoned until the very day he died. Now, at this time, most of the world thought that this was the end of the system and that the papacy was dead. But you can't stop Bible prophecy. No, because amazingly, over 130 years later in 1929, Italian dictator Mussolini gave back to the Pope the territory of the Vatican City, as well as a fortune worth of compensation to make up for the inconvenience of everything. And it's amazing that the newspapers of the time even proclaimed that the wound to the Vatican had been healed. Here's an article from February the 12th, 1929. Amazing, isn't it? But this certainly wasn't a complete heal for this beast. No, rather, it was the beginning of the healing. You see, the papacy still needed to have their worldly influence and dominion healed. But ever since this point in time, this wound has been gradually healing. And as times have gone on, perceptions of the papacy are changing. For example, the current Pope, Pope Francis, in 2013, he was actually named Person of the Year by Time magazine. The headline read, Pope Francis, the People's Pope. He took the name of a humble saint and then called for a church of healing. Then in 2015, the unthinkable happened when the Pope was invited to speak at a joint Congress session in the United States. As the New York Times reported, Pope Francis, the spiritual leader of 1.2 billion Catholics, challenged Congress and by extension the mightiest nation in the world on Thursday to break out of its cycle of paralysis and use its power to heal the open wounds of a planet torn by hatred, greed, poverty, and pollution. But amazingly, the article goes on to say this. Not long ago, the prospect of the head of the Catholic Church addressing Congress would have been unthinkable. Catholics in politics were a source of suspicion and the subject of slander for generations. Today, the pendulum has swung. That was 2015. Indeed, the pendulum has swung. Since then, and up until today, we have continued to see the influence and power of the church increase. Revelation 13, verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So let's add this healing of the sea beast's wounds here to our Bible timeline. This healing of the wound is a significant moment in Bible prophecy here in the 6th millennium. Now, to this day, the wound is still not healed completely yet. But we can see it is very, very, very close. And once this wound does become fully healed, we can expect the last day events to happen very quickly. Next time on Creation Code, we will focus our attention to what God does next in the day 6 Genesis accounts. The second part reads in Genesis chapter 1, starting from verse 26. God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." So God created man in his own image. While the literal interpretation of this verse is clearly God creating mankind in his image, it's fascinating that as you read through Revelation, it talks about the creation of another image to occur in the end times. But it's not an image after God, is it? No, it's an image to Satan. A counterfeit image that Revelation calls the image to the beast. What is this image to the beast and who establishes it? To find out, make sure you join me next time on Creation Code. Thank you for watching the Creation Code. If you'd like to support this series, click the like button for this video and every video you watch. This will massively affect the outreach of this message. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Bible Spotlight channel so you don't miss any new content. Thank you and God bless you.